Hello and welcome to part of this ongoing How to Deeply Connect with a Fearful Avoidant Attachment Style series. This is basically a whole bunch of parts or snippets from a long form webinar that I had about an hour and a half, 2 hours in length. That's all about how to deeply connect with a fearful avoidant attachment style. And if you want to watch the full episode of the webinar in detail, you can check it out for free for 7 days. You can use the link in the description box below and gain access to the whole thing. And in that whole long form webinar, we talk about the fearful avoidance needs, specific ways of meeting them, how to communicate about those needs, how to rebuild trust with a fearful avoidant, how to work through an argument with an FA, the different core wounds and how to bypass the core wounds of the fearful avoidant, and also just all the things you need to know in terms of your emotional patterns, communication style, language, all these different things. If you are the FA, we definitely made the webinar for like if you are the FA or the loved one of an FA and really go back and forth from both sides there. So you can check it out for free using the link below. We are going to cover specifically how to move through an argument with a fearful avoidant and what's really necessary to do this. Because a lot of times, especially before a fearful avoidant is really aware and working on themselves, first of all, a fearful avoidant, even if they've started working themselves, doesn't often know what they need to actually feel resolved in an argument and tends to feel a sense of kind of learned helplessness there. So may just shut down completely or push the person away or avoid like really digging up the conflict and moving through it. Or they will hold on to things for so long that by the time they try to talk about them, and if you are the fearful one and you do this, you know who you are, um, because it's definitely an FA thing. But sometimes the fearful one, because you'll hold things in and then give so much to other people, by the time you do bring something up with somebody, sometimes it's like, hey, you bring up the 12 things that happened over the past 3 months and the timestamps of when they happened. And you'll be like, yesterday you did this at 1 o'clock and Thursday of last week you did that. And it can sort of be like this purging of like all of this stuff that you've been holding in. And obviously, like whether it's really avoiding or whether it's purging, neither of those are healthy ways that are going to help you feel resolved, at peace, like anything good through an argument. So, whether you're the fearful avoidant watching this or the loved one, we're going to go through major steps you need to properly work through an argument. And you can use these steps and follow them to really empower yourself whenever in a conflict. Because if you want to make it past the power struggle stage of a relationship and actually have relationships that last, it is absolutely necessary to learn how to fight in a healthy way. Everybody fights, everybody argues, but we want to ideally have less fighting and less arguments. And when we have them, they're actually great opportunities for growth because you had something you were holding in that was a problem, somebody else did. And then all of a sudden, the bringing those things up, it either puts you in a more destructive space or you actually get to work through something that was creating this invisible wall between yourself and a loved one. And by working through it, all of a sudden it actually empowers your relationship much more profoundly. So definitely important to pay attention to. So the very first thing is if you're the loved one of the fearful avoidant, and I'm going to say it from the loved one perspective, but if you are the FA, you can walk somebody to these things as well. So the first thing is fearful avoidants need to have their point and perspective seen, heard, and validated. Most important. Fearful avoidants do not need to be told that they're right. They don't need to be told that, like, I only agree with your opinion. They usually don't care about that at all, but they do care that somebody says to you, you know what? Maybe I don't agree with you, but I can see your perspective. I can hear why you're upset and I can understand where you're coming from. Validating that is why the fearful avoidance is trying to argue about right versus wrong in the first place. They just want to be seen and heard and understood by the people they love. So when you can start by just saying, look, I'm not sure if I agree with like, how you're handling this right now, but I definitely see why you're hurt or upset. It makes sense to me and I get where you're coming from. That's the massive first step. And to be honest, this works really well with everybody, but it works especially well with fearful avoidance. The second step is then fearful avoidance want to hear context or transparent information about why you did what you did that hurt them. So let's say you forgot to call them back on this really important day, or you forgot to pick them up and they were waiting for you, like whatever it might be. If you share vulnerably, and this is a really important part, vulnerably, what was going on inside of you that led to that mistake, that's going to go the next longest way. When fearful avoidants understand where you're coming from and vulnerably get like what led up to what happened, from your end and understand like your inside world, it helps them feel safe to trust you and to let something go. Without that, they keep holding on because they're like, well, if you're doing these types of things, I don't know what you're going to do next. So I'm going to keep you at arm's length. I'm going to use my emotion to create distance between us because I don't trust to let you back in and feel vulnerable. But instead, if you can say, look, I was really stressed. I totally messed up. I should have been there to pick you up. I'm so sorry. I can see why you're hurt. It will not happen again. And honestly, like I was really stressed and caught up with some stuff that was going on for me at work. And I just was like absorbed in that and I made a mistake. That's going to go so much better than just saying, hey, like, I'm sorry that I didn't pick you up. You're overreacting, right? Like things like that. So I've seen lots of couples argue in these ways, and that is definitely going to set off the fearful avoidant. So when you can give context and vulnerability and transparency, it's the next huge thing. The next piece, so piece number 3, is that you need to be able to say, okay, what do you need to feel better? What can I do to solve for this in the future and to make sure that we move through this? So if you ask them what they need, and then when they say what they need, right? What do you need to feel better? What do you need to feel relief? Like what would make you feel like this is resolved? Any of those ways of wording things is all creating that same outcome for step 3. And when they say what they need, like, I need to know that you're going to look out for me in the future. I need to know that you're going to be there. Um, Give a way that you can meet that need, a very specific strategy. And that's step 4. Say, I hear you. That makes sense. Why don't we try it this way? Like, why don't we have a scheduled phone call put in our Google calendars an hour before I'm supposed to arrive so I'll be there? Like, just a strategy. Like, you follow those 4 steps properly, the fearful avoidant will feel resolved. Bonus step is if you want to like hold the fearful avoidant's hand, put your hand on their leg, like something where there's that physical closeness, but just a little bit. It also helps the fearful avoidant kind of feel like you're on their side. They can relax even if you grab their hand or you rub their shoulder. Like these things tend to help the fearful avoidant feel more calm. Now, um, other things is if you're in the heat of the moment and if your avoidance really triggered, your other little recipe for success is to, this tends to work very well for fearful avoidance, is to give them space for about 10 minutes and then come back. Fearful avoidants tend to like get really avoidant, but then warm up really quickly as well because they can start like kind of feeling more of their anxious side. That can be about within 10 minutes, depending on like the intensity of the argument and how often you're arguing and things like that. But as a kind of general, specific way, that tends to work well. And then go in and apply those 4 steps. Now, if you are the fearful avoidant, okay, and you're on this side of things, know these things and walk somebody there. If you're the loved one, you also have to then explain what your needs are, ask for your perspective to be validated. Like this process needs to be flipped around, and I'll take you through these steps in just a moment. I do want to say, if I didn't mention earlier, I think that I did. This whole webinar and all this detail is in the school that you can check out in way more detail right now for an hour. It's about an hour and a half. I actually think it's about an hour and 50 minutes long, but it gives you everything you should know in a ton of detail. And you can use the link below to check it out. And that will give you free access for 7 days. So anyways, with that being said, if you're the loved one of the fearful avoidant, these are the conversations you want to be having. You want to be able to say, hey, what's come up for you? You want to be able to do it from your side. So, hey, I'm feeling upset right now. I don't need you to tell me I'm right, but I need you to tell me that you can understand why I'm hurt and where I'm coming from. Like, does it make sense knowing what you know about me, why I'd be hurt in the situation or why I'd be upset in the situation? And when that's validated, you got step 1. Then the second step is you want to be able to make sure that you're kind of like reversing the steps, but not quite. You're simplifying a little bit too. You're then saying, hey, can I tell you what I would need to feel better right now? Like I really need to tell you what I would need so that I feel like we can solve this. And then a specific strategy to get the need met. So you're not giving as much like context and transparency because that's what you're asking for if you're the fearful avoidant, or telling if you're the loved one of an FA. But when you're looking to reinsert your needs into the equation, you want to be operating from that space as well, getting those 3 steps in there. And this will help you to feel seen, heard, understood, like your needs are acknowledged, like they can be met and strategized on behalf of. And this needs to be a 2-way street. It can't just be one way, no matter what your attachment style is. So I hope this makes sense. It's a really important part of resolving conflict, a really important part, honestly, of like digging deep into a lot of these things. And it tends to be very, very effective when it comes to the fearful avoidance. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this makes sense. Please let me know in the comments if you have any other questions down below. And thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I make daily YouTube videos all about attachment styles, the subconscious mind, core wounds, everything related to integrated attachment theory. And you can ask me your questions down below. You can join us in PDS. I do 4 free webinars a week as a student, along with all the courses that you have access to. And there's free trials to check that out at any time, at least for this period of time. That may not be an ongoing thing forever, but at least for right now. And I hope that all makes sense. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and see you in the next video.